Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reeville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very, very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Arielle Skinner. She is here to celebrate I Am a Sunflower, the Sunflower is Me, and share with us how she survived an abusive foster home by daring to dream. Before we invite Arielle into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Fit for Off-Duty, a manual for firefighters written by Dr. Peter Salerno. The health and well-being of our first responders, that service is more important than ever, especially in light of our global health crisis. First responders are exposed to work-related trauma every time they are on duty, and this takes a serious toll on them personally, as well as on their spouses and children. It's so important to provide first responders with resources to help them thrive both professionally and at home. Dr. Peter Salerno, a licensed psychotherapist, in his book, Fit for Off-Duty, a manual for firefighters, provides a valuable resource for firefighters and their families. Dr. Salerno, who was raised in a firefighter family himself, covers the most common sides of work-related trauma, exposure for firefighters, and discusses ways in which firefighters can heal from the stress of the job, as well as repair personal relationships with family members while off-duty. It's an invaluable resource for firefighters who may not know just how impacted they are by the work that they do. Please check out Dr. Peter Salerno's Fit for Off-Duty, a manual for firefighters. It's available on Amazon and other book retailers. And for more information about Dr. Salerno, you can follow him on Instagram at Dr. Peter Salerno, as well as check out his professional website, drpetersalerno.com. Fit for Off-Duty, a manual for firefighters. Get your copy today. And if you know a firefighter, please consider providing this book to them as a gift. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Maryland. Our guest today is here to celebrate her beautiful book. It's called I Am a Sunflower, the Sunflower is Me. Please welcome to the show, Arielle Skinner. Hey, Arielle, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
Now, I have to tell you, I Am a Sunflower, the Sunflower is Me. It sounds like something that I might have heard back in my hippie days of the 60s when I was walking around with hair down past my shoulders.
Yeah, it's very unique. But I came up with the title because I just loved how poetic it sounded to me. And it really is, the book is really about seeing yourself in a sunflower and how the sunflower gives you an opportunity to kind of reflect on like your needs, just like the sunflower might need certain things to grow. What do you need as a little girl to grow, and what that looks like? And I just really wanted the sunflower to be a reminder, kind of like a mirror to our young girls' beauty and what they need and how unique and beautiful they are. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you're talking about reminding girls about how beautiful they are. I know one of the things that I did as a dad, raising a young girl who grew up to be and is a very successful, very responsible, very caring and beautiful adult. And she was very beautiful. She was constantly getting people telling her, "You're so beautiful, you're so beautiful," to the point where she didn't want to hear it anymore. You know, it was just really, it's like, but see me, see who I am. And I think that that's something that we forget about sometimes, that beauty isn't just, oh, such a pretty girl. It's the beauty of the person inside.
Yes. Yes. And you'll find in the book, there's affirmations, and we talk about more than just our outward appearance, right? But also beauty in our smile, beauty in our intelligence. You know, my brain is important. I am important, more than just our outward beauty, you know, but what do I have to offer the world?
Yeah. Now, you're coming at this just as you're not just an author who sat down and I don't mean to disparage authors, but you're in this field. You're actually working with kids every day, helping them as a social worker. Can you tell us a little bit about that work and how it relates to the book?
Yeah. So, I am a treatment foster care social worker. That's what we call the social workers who work with foster youth who have more emotional behavioral issues and challenges compared to regular foster care. And so one of the things that I see a lot, well, some of the things are lower self-esteem in our youth, grief, let's see, depression, anxiety, a lot of trauma, a lot of complex trauma. So it's a lot of things that are kind of coming at them or that they've experienced. And one of the things that I felt that would be beneficial to them and any young girl who has experienced a lot in her life and are constantly getting messages that they're not enough, that something must be wrong with me for me to be in this predicament, to doubt their worth, their intelligence, and their ability to move forward in their lives and make a lot out of the little bit that they've experienced so far. There's a need for that. There's a great need for that. They're beautiful children, beautiful youth. It's just life has really happened to them and they've been in survival mode, and it's going to take a lot of work to get them to dream again, to vision again, a life that looks very different from what they might have experienced so far. And that's even in and of itself, that dreaming and getting vision for their life is going to be something that's, for some of them, very scary to do. Yeah,
yeah. We've had Dr. John DeGarmo on the program a number of times, and he is a foster care expert and speaks on the subject and has had, I forget the number of kids who've come through his house. I know he adopted at least 3 of the kids who came to his house as foster kids, and also dozens and dozens and dozens of other kids. He told me that in any time here in the United States that there are 400,000 kids in the foster care system. That is, it's an unacceptable number to me. What's going on? Why? Obviously, there are many different reasons why kids end up in foster homes. Oftentimes, tragedy is beyond anybody's, ability to make things different. Substance abuse and domestic abuse and whatnot. But it seems that the kids get stuck in this system and they can't find a forever home. And by that I mean just not so much that they become adopted, but just that they're in one place for 5 or 6 years until they become an adult. How can we change this?
Oh, that's a question that is still waiting to be answered. But I think it is breaking down the foster care system and rebuilding it from the bottom up. It's so many different aspects to foster care, right? And it's a systemic issue. So it's the system itself. It's the way that things are set up. We have a lot of individuals at the table who are making decisions who have never been in foster care themselves, who don't understand what the experience is like. And they're making decisions that aren't necessarily helpful to foster youth. So I think it's going to take hearing more from us, right? Foster youth and those who work in the field, and giving us the seats at the table and allowing us to, advocate for better policies for our systems. And another piece is, unfortunately, due to capitalism and things like that, we do have some foster parents who are in it for the money, and not so much passion, right? And it's challenging because you also have these kids who are coming in and they've experienced so much trauma. They're in survival mode. It's hard for them to connect to their foster parent, like the foster parent would like for them to so instantly. And they come with a lot of behavioral issues as well. It's a lot that comes with having a foster child in your home. And as a foster parent, sometimes it becomes too much for them. And so they go from home to home, when a foster parent isn't able to really deal with those behaviors and what kind of comes along with that child.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things I wanted to address. You talked about just kind of taking the system and just rebuilding it and starting from scratch. And I think that's, unfortunately, is not very realistic. But I think that you're right, because I know here in Massachusetts, I worked in human services for many years before I started performing. I didn't work directly in foster care, but my agency it was predominantly a foster care agency. And so I saw it, and I saw my fellow caseworkers, and they had caseloads of 300 kids. And there's no way you can service. That's just ridiculous. And what I've seen happen here in Massachusetts, and I know it's happened in other places, where there's been some abuse or some breakdown, and it finally gets the attention, and the state says, we've had enough. We're not putting up with this anymore. And so we're closing down that system, and we're opening up this new system. Reality, all they did was change the letterhead. Mm-hmm. The people were the same. The policies were the same. The budget was the same. And that's one reason I got out of human services, is because I would see this happening not only in foster care, but in the juvenile justice system and family support. It's just, we're just going to call this something else and call it a day and say that we fixed it.
Yeah. And that's very unfortunate for our kids and our families that we say that we care about and want to see reunited and living successfully as a family and in healthy environments, right? So,
yeah. You also mentioned that it's important for the people making these decisions to listen to us, people working with foster kids and foster kids themselves. And you actually can speak to both of those. You not only are working with foster youth, but you came through the foster care system. Could you share with us, if you don't mind, a little bit about what that was like and what your experience was like?
Yeah, definitely. So I aged out of the foster care system at 21. I actually entered the foster care system at 6 years old due to abuse from my mother. And it was a very traumatic experience. I think when you're suddenly told that you're not going back to the home, the life that you knew just a few hours ago, that in and of itself is very traumatic. And although, it was a harmful, not the best environment for me, my mother, that was my mother, right? And she'll always be my mother. And so that was very hard. And then being in foster care and realizing how different you are from your peers, that you have to get permission for things that your peers don't have to get permission for. Something simple as taking a field trip, or taking a photo with the class or for the school, say you've done some sort of achievement. You have to get permission or you can't do it at all. So I was very aware of how different I was from my peers. When they would see, my foster parent, they say, "Hey, is that your mom?" And it's kind of weird to answer it. or I'm getting picked up because I'm required to do therapy every week, which takes time away from my day in school, and my social workers coming to the school in the state car. It was very, very challenging. It's very, very challenging. It's so interesting being on the social worker side now and seeing how the youth are just so annoyed when I come and visit them as often as I do. And I'm like, I know. I knew exactly what that felt like. Oh, another person. And it's really hard to kind of build those relationships. I think on the other side of it, we want, as social workers, to build these relationships with these kids. And it's like, they think of it as like, you're paid to be here. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want you here. I want my family here. Mm-hmm. I want things to feel normal. And if there's anything that I felt the most, it was just a desire to feel normal, like a normal kid. And I did doubt my worth because I did not understand why I was not enough for my family to come and get me out of foster care, or for me never to even have to enter. Mm-hmm. And then I did go through a few foster homes because of my behaviors. And I actually thought that if I showed out in these behaviors, that somehow no one would want to deal with me and I can go back home to what I was used to, what was comfortable. And when I realized that never happened, in that I was finding myself about to be placed in a residential facility, I had to make some different choices, but it's an incredibly isolating experience. And yeah, it's an incredibly isolating experience, and worth is something that I feel that I dealt with a lot because everything felt like rejection mm-hmm. at that time. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is I was one of those youth who did dare to dream because my present was so painful for me. So I would often dream about what I wanted to be when I would grow up and what I wanted to do and what kind of life I wanted to have. And that was actually helpful for me to kind of make a lot of decisions that would put me in that direction.
I love that you dared to dream. And that's mm-hmm. such an important thing for all of us, no matter if we're foster care or what. Was there something that gave you that imagination, that dream? Or was there somebody that said something? We had Steve Pemberton on the program, and he went through the foster care system and, in fact, was in an abusive foster care home. And he told us that one of the things that helped him dream was reading, being able to escape into a book and see a better life. Was there a person in your life? And he shared with us that there was this one person in the neighborhood who would give him books. Mm-hmm. And, so it was that gift. Was there somebody in your life or something in your life that helped you to dream of something better?
Yeah. I think a lot of foster youth share that sentiment of loving to read or find some way to escape. So I was an avid reader. Unfortunately, a lot of the books that I read at that age did not represent me very well, as a young Black girl. And so for me, I would get to a point where I'm like, I could never live that life, right? Or that's not me. I don't really see myself in that. But for me, I would have to say, if I'm completely honest, I was exposed to God very early on. While one of my foster homes was pretty abusive, not the best environment, I was introduced to Christ at that time, and that had always been my foundation. I could remember just times where I would cry, myself to sleep and just ask for God to wrap his arms around me and comfort me. And I would really feel a sense of peace as if I was being held. And so for me, I think as much as I wanted to harden my heart towards others along my journey, I think he never allowed that for me. And I think that by being in church and being exposed to women and men who believed in God, in reading the word myself, I kind of held on to Jeremiah 29:11, and I clung to that, that for I know the plans that I have for you to give you a hope in the future. And that was like my lifeline. And so I'm like, okay, so there is a hope in the future beyond this for me. And there's somebody who actually cares to see me through not just this, but beyond. Right. And so I think that was my foundation for dreaming and getting some vision for my life.
That's a beautiful story. And here you are.
Yeah.
And you took that belief and you took that comfort and you changed your life, you changed your stars, and now you are helping other kids hopefully have the same experience. Did you always see yourself as a children's author?
No, not even a little bit. I would say it was a sort of a spiritual experience for me. I was actually at Virginia Beach Department of Social Services. I think I had a meeting with my social worker, and I was sitting in the lobby, and it just kind of came to me. And in the lobby, they have this stand where there's like a lot of resources and things like that. And I just started grabbing some paper, asked the receptionist for a pen, and I was writing it down. And it just came to me, and I was just writing and writing and writing. And I think that part of what I was writing was everything little Arielle at that time needed to hear that she probably wasn't hearing, but that would validate her existence, her worth, and how important and valuable that she was.
Yeah. Well, I love the cover art of I Am a Sunflower. The sunflower is me. Why don't you give a shout out to your illustrator?
Yes, Doris Pollard. She was phenomenal. She was, I think she spent a little bit of time in the foster care system herself, and I did not know this prior to working with her, but she did a phenomenal job, and I really gave her free range for the most part with the illustrations.
Yeah, really, really fun. Before we go, I'm obviously going to ask you in a minute to tell everybody where we can go to find out more about you and about the book. But I want to take this chance to ask you, how can we help kids in the foster care system? Not everybody is the person to be a foster parent. But I think that there are ways for all of us to reach out and to provide the support and the love that can make a difference in somebody's life. What kind of things can people listening do?
Listen to them. Create space for their voice to be heard so they can tell you what they need. Volunteer with agencies and organizations in your local area, as well as national organizations. Team up with them because they're already usually doing some of the work, whether it's, volunteering for events or sponsoring a youth to go to college or, pick up a trade. But I would say mostly just offering your service to those who are already doing the work and then creating space for their voice to be heard. I think that's the most important part because they can tell you best.
And the investment of time, of our time, volunteering is well worth it. The investment of our tax dollars is also very, very worth it because the investments we make in our foster kids in making their lives better, giving them hope for the future, it comes back to us in so many ways because we help those kids become productive, happy members of our community, doing great things like you're doing.
Yeah.
Arielle, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you and find out more about I'm a Sunflower. The sunflower is me.
Yes, so my website is www.arielleskinner.com. There you can find a little bit more information about me. You can purchase the paperback version of I Am a Sunflower, The Sunflower Is Me, as well as see whatever events are going on at that time where I'll be making appearances. Also, I Am a Sunflower, The Sunflower Is Me has a Instagram page called The Sunflower Is Me. So there we post everything that's going on with I Am a Sunflower, The Sunflower Is Me as well. And then you can always shoot me an email if you need any information, would like to discuss anything further at hello@arielleskinner.com.
Awesome. And are we going to be seeing more children's books coming from Arielle Skinner?
I think so.
Awesome.
I think so.
We've had a great time speaking with the author of I Am a Sunflower, The Sunflower Is Me, Arielle Skinner. Arielle, thank you so very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Lindsay Grzycki. She'll be here to celebrate to the moon and back. Hey, if you are the author of a fantastic children's book, please do yourself a favor and visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button, because when you do that, you're going to be able to find out how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. You can be a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Sit down and have a long-form conversation about your book, about your inspirations, about conversations that you envision families having while experiencing your book. It's a really great way to tell thousands of people about your book. It's fun, it's easy, and it doesn't cost a thing. You can also learn how you can submit your book to our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read panel. And if they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Certified Great Read. And with that status comes a number of really powerful tools to let families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. And you can also find out about our really exciting monthly promo program. We'll celebrate your book with commercials on the podcast, shout-outs to our 75,000-plus social media followers, and display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. Learn all about it by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and clicking on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. We want to start by thanking our guest, Arielle Skinner. Please be sure to check out I Am a Sunflower, The Sunflower Is Me. Also want to thank our sponsor, Dr. Peter Salerno. Please be sure to check out Fit for Off Duty. My team deserves a big thank you. Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.